So for those that were demanding competition in the GPU space to help bring costs down, it was kind of a welcome sight to see Intel enter the GPU space about 4 years ago with Alchemy, or Alchemist, whichever you want to call it. I believe it's Alchemist. They had gathered some really top-tier talent from both AMD and NVIDIA, specifically Tom A. Peterson. You know, they refer to him as TAP. He was one of the guys that brought some of the most innovative ideas to the gaming GPU side of the GeForce lineup within NVIDIA. So when we heard that he moved over to Intel, we were expecting some great things. Unfortunately, things have kind of been a bit lackluster, and some of the latest rumors show that Intel might be starting to make a very quiet, discreet exit from consumer GPUs. If you're serious about your aim, your mouse actually matters more than people think. And this is Be Quiet's new Dark Perk gaming mouse. Now what I like is that they don't do the usual one shape fits nobody approach. You've got two options, the Sim, which is a classical symmetrical design, and the Ergo, if you want something that actually fits your hand for longer sessions. It's also super lightweight, which makes a bigger difference than people realize, and less fatigue, easier micro adjustments, and just better overall control. And inside you get the PixArt PAW3950 sensor, up to 32,000 DPI, and 8,000 Hertz polling. So yeah, this is top tier tracking, and no weird acceleration, no spin outs, and just exactly what you expect your mouse to do. And the clicks feel really nice too. These are optical Omron switches, so they're fast, consistent, and a little softer than the typical click, which is great for long sessions. And then the part that people overlook, it's 100% PTFE skates with rounded edges, which means this thing glides smooth, predictable, and with no drag. Oh, and with up to 110 hours of battery life, so you're not constantly plugging it in. So if you're trying to get every little advantage you can in competitive gaming, this is one of those upgrades you'll actually notice. So check out the Be Quiet Dark Perk mouse in the link in the description below. This is one of those things where it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend and the friend of my enemy is my enemy kind of a thing. And for those people right now that are just so mad at both AMD and NVIDIA for kind of going all in on the AI data center GPU market game, we've all been kind of waiting and patiently waiting for something big to come from Intel's GPU corner. Now, if you guys remember, when we first saw the A580 and the A770 GPUs, they were not exciting. But they were just intended to be more of a kind of a proof of concept of what Intel was working on. Now, if anyone expected Intel to enter the market with a first GPU and actually have competition against both AMD, who has minority market share, and NVIDIA, which has hugely majority market share, well, I've got some beachfront property in Arizona I'd gladly sell you for cheap. But when you moved on from Alchemist to Battlemage, and you know what's funny about Intel is like the way they were kind of using the Android naming scheme was starting at the letter A and just making their way up. Like A was Alchemist, B was Battlemage, C Celestial, D Druid, E, I don't remember what E was supposed to be. It was Eclair when it was Android. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, Android was also a lot of suites. It was like Froyo for F. Okay, the fat is showing. Moving on. When we saw the B580, which was technically a mid-tier product, actually catch up and beat both AMD's and NVIDIA's entry-level offerings with even things like XeSS kind of matching almost when it comes to the fidelity or the image quality of FSR and DLSS upscalers, we all got excited. Okay, what is B780 gonna look like? Are we gonna see a bigger Battlemage? And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and that never happened. Now, the crazy part is, the longer we waited, the closer the roadmap started showing us Celestial stuff should be coming here pretty soon. Like 2026 is when we're supposed to see the Celestial versions of Intel Arc graphics cards launch. And the latest rumors show us that's not happening. Now, the timing kind of sucks if you think about it. Intel got into the discrete GPU, gaming GPU market post-COVID, which was already when prices became inflated and became the new norm of being extremely overpriced. And then there was the AI boom, and then more recently over the last 6 months, what pricing for VRAM and other NAND and other components that were needed to actually build the cards and, you know, get them sent to consumers, and tariffs and all that other stuff just ended up being like the ultimate combo in Street Fighter to just knock Intel right back to the ground without it even being due to competition. It just simply was the scenario of economics getting in the way, unfortunately. So we're seeing some leaks here that took place on Twitter specifically. This is coming from Twitter user Jaykin, Jaykin, who has a fairly strong track record of being accurate when it comes to these leaks. But again, everything here should be taken as a non-confirmed source. But it appears to be aligning up with what we're seeing happening versus what is being mentioned here. So they're saying that Celestial was canceled a long time ago. Now, obviously, those code names are not GPUs. Those are upcoming CPUs, which are expected to launch. And then somebody asks him, says, no discrete GPUs by late this year or Q1 of 2027. In December, Battlemage will be 2 years old. And then Jakin says, no gaming GPUs. Now, what's interesting about that is they go on to say, Arc is fine, but the XE3P installment was canceled. This snapshot only spans a year or two. A drop in the bucket for product lines. Conversation goes on to say, so the next Gen D GPU will be XE4. And then Jakin says, the next gaming discrete GPU architecture is up in the air. So the conversation moves on to, so you say there will be no new gaming GPU, discrete gaming GPUs, but they don't know what Arc they will use, or the gaming discrete GPU as a whole is up in the air. And Jakin says, I can't personally confirm anything on the gaming side past Celestial's cancellation, so I'm not commenting. Which is funny because it is technically a comment. So basically, that earnings call or that kind of product roadmap call went on to mention all the CPUs that are coming down the pipeline for Intel. No surprise. I mean, they've never stopped making CPUs. But the GPU side being new went on to say that Celestial, as you know it, is canceled. So that's really disappointing for those of us that were really hoping to see a larger punch from Intel, if you will, on the discrete gaming GPU side of things, because having a three-party system would be pretty awesome in many ways. But Kepler asked in Twitter, Celestial and Druid gaming GPUs are dead? And then he says, Celestial was canned long ago and Druid is still up in the air. Now, what's interesting about that is the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe I'm off base here, I feel like that's almost like the end of the discrete gaming GPUs or the Arc setup or series as a whole if you cancel a successor and then say, well, the next successor past the one that's canceled is kind of up in the air. Because as far as I'm concerned, that'd be like a cutoff point. So if you have decided as a company, we are not investing architectural funds, we are not investing R&D, we are not investing in production, which would just be TSMC, of Arc GPUs for Celestial, why would you continue spending money beyond that to Druid, which is supposed to be the natural progression of your Arc lineup? So it just seems weird to me that they would say, okay, well, you know what? If Druid is supposed to come technically in like Q3 2027, something like that, now you're talking about Battlemage being 3+ almost 4 years old at this point. Now, natural life cycles or family cycles of GPUs currently is about 30 months or so, give or take. 24 months is a little soon. It used to be almost every year and a half, almost 2 years. But as the graphics card companies progressed and made bigger, more expensive graphics cards, admittedly stronger, but much more expensive, their lifespan stays relevant longer. And with gaming not really pushing and advancing the need for people to upgrade, the life cycles have been getting longer and longer, and 36 months for Intel doesn't seem out of the realm of realistic. But the problem here is I don't feel like people were obviously running out and buying Intel. When it comes to graphics, gamers are not certainly running out and buying Intel even when it comes to CPU as a forethought of their buying priorities. So it's not surprising to me that they would look at this and say, okay, this is a sinking ship. We have a pail of water to try and bail water out of this thing. We might as well just kind of let it slip beneath the waves. Now, here's the thing. They are still generating and creating and trying to get involved in the discrete GPU for AI acceleration and AI models. So this is specifically discrete consumer GPUs that we're talking about here, which also then just shows if they've been able to get any piece of the pie regarding the phantom funds that AI right now is kicking all around, they're going to do that because they got to go where the money is, and that's where the money is right now. So it's unfortunate because this also comes on the heels of AMD giving us an extremely lackluster RDNA 4 technology with 90. What I mean by lackluster, 9060 through 9070 XT performs fantastic, but it's not a flagship like setup. It is. We were all hoping for AMD now moving to a more chiplet GPU design as well, that they could scale that sucker up and give us like a 9090 XT. Let's go. Let's have AMD now fight and take a lot of that discrete gaming market share for Radeon away from GeForce as much as possible, because true competition now means that we could see prices potentially start to come down. Unfortunately, what we got is a $900-ish 9070 XT when you talk about custom add-in board partners, and kind of a broken promise to gamers as far as I'm concerned. So now you've got a mediocre lineup of only 4 GPUs that AMD launched in the last year, and Intel now looking like they're bowing out entirely, which means you have Jensen just continuing to laugh all the way to his AI bank. So, well, I wonder how many more dominoes are going to fall as we see the AI revolution start to not destroy product, if you will. It's changing the way products are being designed and who the products are being sold to. And now that it's just one big giant business to business circle jerk, I was going to say, how do we get in the middle of that? But I don't want to be in the middle of that.